it's the idea between pattern breakers in life and pattern makers, right? Now, I think a lot of the time, many of the patterns and a lot of the conditioning, and we've been talking about that recently, that we may have is is unconscious in the sense that we didn't notice it was happening, right? Either we learned to do it before we could walk and talk, or we have picked it up from society. It's unconscious, our parents, all this kind of stuff. We don't know that it's happening, and so those patterns are there, and it's not that they're bad or anything like that. Some of them are potentially like healthier than others, and some of them are things that we would like to shed, things that we would like to let go of, and others are things that are very, very helpful. Um, but I think that in life, very often, there are things that can help us to break free from those patterns, from that conditioning. Some of that's karmic, some of it is through grace. We just have an experience, we have an insight, and something falls away. We have that first moment ever where we realize the fact that we're not who we think we are. We're much, much more than that. We're the awareness behind it. And sometimes that's completely unexplainable when that kind of break in the pattern, if you like, happens. And in many traditions, a spiritual life is something that doesn't happen very often. Maybe thousands upon thousands of lifetimes before we kind of wake up to a consciously spiritual life. And that makes sense to me. There's many, many people on the planet who are innocently lost in their conditioning, right? That was me for the longest time. And then through grace or whatever happened, I woke up, which is amazing. I'm very grateful for that, and I also feel like I didn't have that much to do with it. At the end of the day, it wasn't something that I did. It was just something that happened through me, right? So I think just to kind of share a bit on this. So the pattern makers are obviously the conditioning that may happen, and the things that we see, but also things that kind of keep it in place. So I think judgment is something that can often keep a pattern in place. So for example, perhaps there's something that we'd really love to be different about ourselves. So we judge ourselves about it. We're like, why are you still doing this thing? Fuck's sake. Like, why don't you just stop, Sam? What's wrong with you? Like no one else does this stuff in your friendship group anymore. You're the broken one, all this kind of stuff. Now, I think that when we do that, we don't feel connected to ourselves. We feel resistant. We're not comfortable in our own skin at that point in time. And that isn't the greatest space for us to have an insight. It's not the greatest space for us to let something fall away. And so I think judgment is often one of the quickest ways to keep a pattern in place. We don't understand what's going on when we judge ourselves. We don't understand what's going on with other people when we judge them. Because the moment we judge someone and the moment we make the decision that they don't have this right, like my way of thinking about this is the right way, and how could they possibly think that? We've put like a wall between us, and we can't understand that. Well, it's true for ourselves as well. When we judge ourselves, that wall goes up, and we feel that kind of cognitive dissonance, or we feel like we're not, as I say, not comfortable in our own skin or whatever it might be. So judgment is something. And then there are a number of things in life where they're pattern breakers, it seems to be. And I'm not sure if they themselves necessarily break the pattern. It's got to come from within. It has to be an insight, right? But there are ways in which we can be open to things changing. And that's really powerful. So in the way that being innocently, right, being scared of our feelings, being scared of our psychological experience might lead us to a place where we're pushing our feelings down and we're not resistant. That may very well keep a pattern in place, because as the system's like, I just want to feel this, Sam. I just want you to close this loop. I just want you to breathe. I just want the system to move this energy through you. All right. If we resist that, the pattern stays in place. But the moment we realize that we are safe to feel, that we can breathe, that we can be with our emotions, that we have been built to feel, and that feelings aren't wrong, that they're not good or bad, they just are. They're a part of this beautiful human experience that we're all having. Some of them are difficult, some of them are really lovely to feel, but they're all safe. That changes everything. It means that something can start to flow through us, right? For the first time, we lie on the floor and just let it be awash in the feeling, and then we have an insight. Something occurs to us, and the world looks different. That pattern has kind of been broken, to use this metaphor. Or for the first time, we pour love and compassion on ourselves because we realize that all we've ever been doing is what makes sense to us based on the thinking that we've got. So we shift away from the judgment, right? And then maybe we start to judge ourselves for the fact that we've got judgment, but then we catch that cycle and then we pour love and compassion on ourselves. It just fills us up from the inside, and we realize I don't have to cling on to that anymore. It couldn't have been what happened in the past couldn't have been any different. I was just doing what made sense to me. That love and that compassion they pour into us, and potentially that pattern starts to fall away and look different. So yeah, in our life, I think very often, logically, we lean towards judging ourselves, berating ourselves, telling ourselves off because it feels logical. It feels like a logical next step. Because like, well, if I keep doing that, then I'll learn the lesson in the end, right? But then we're not listening to ourselves. We're relating to ourselves as if we're not doing what makes sense, right? We're like, well, it's occurred to me that I don't want to do this anymore, and I keep doing it, so there must be something wrong with me. But then we're not in flow. We're not honoring ourselves. We're not giving ourselves the love and the compassion. The very just for the human that we are, right? We're this spiritual being, and we're having a human experience too. And then the moment we shift into love and compassion for ourselves, which seemingly often the ego or the conditioning might go, oh, but if you do that, you'll run amok, you'll lose control. This thing that you're the only reason you're seemingly keeping any control on this thing is because you're telling yourself off about it. Well, what if that weren't true? What if love and compassion were the route through? What if focusing and seeing what you'd most love was more powerful than telling yourself off for what you don't want? It's kind of like focusing on the beauty of what you'd love rather than focusing on the problem, in air quotes, of what's happening in your life, of what you don't want. There's another pattern breaker for us. Just taking the moment to sit with courage and ask ourselves what we'd most love to have happen. So yeah, like an interesting frame. And I'm really, I think I saw, even as I make this today, as I record this, I think I'm getting more clarity around that. And it seems helpful to me, and so I'd love to know if it's helpful to you. So if it is, leave a comment. Send me. I'd love for you to leave a review. Like if you're watching this on YouTube, please do leave a comment. If you're listening to this as a podcast, then please take just a minute to leave a review. It means a huge amount to me, and it really helps us spread this rebel spirit, which is what I'm all about. So, all right, team. I hope you have the most amazing day. I'll see you soon.